Right, welcome back from that break. Earlier you watched Benjamin Akakpo chatting with Professor Stephen Adey on everything happening on the country, particularly on the SONA and education, and very insightful perspectives that was shared there. It's time now for us to talk about the Anti-LGBTQ Bill, which was passed in Parliament yesterday. We know that the bill introduced in the House about 3 years ago was approved unanimously on Wednesday, February 28th, following the completion of the third reading. The bill will be forwarded to President Akufo-Addo for his assent, and that's where we are now, whether or not the president will assent his signature to that bill. I'm joined for a conversation on this by Kweku Asante, our parliamentary affairs correspondent, and Roberta Akoto Amoafo, who is a human rights activist. Good morning, and thank you both for joining our conversation this morning on the AM show.
Good morning.
Good morning, Tuti Abochi.
Rob Akoto Amoafo, rather, instead of Roberta. Sorry, my apologies for that. Right, so let me start with Kweku Asante. So we know that in June 2021, this bill was introduced in Parliament. We've had various engagements, civil society organizations, rights groups. It's been, read twice, 3 times in Parliament, and finally it's been passed. From the atmosphere, the mood in Parliament, do you get a sense that the president will pass this bill? Also, because we know that there are 3 current bills before the president yet to be assented to. Do you get a sense that this bill will become law eventually?
Well, Sweetie, where you start off context, because 3 private members' bills sponsored by MP from Adina, Francis Xavier Susu, are currently on the desk of the president. He has not signed it yet. He had explained in a memorandum to Parliament that it was because, as private members' bills, they imposed a charge on the consolidated fund. And what bills am I talking about? I'm talking about Francis Susu's bill to remove the death penalty from Ghana's books and commute the death penalty to life imprisonment. The president said, as a private member's bill, that imposed a charge on the consolidated fund, because if you are commuting the death sentence, the person would have died immediately, and expanding it to a life imprisonment, the state will have to take care of that person. And in the view of the president and some others, that must come from the executive government. The bill must be caused to be laid in Parliament, either by the president or on his behalf. So that has been the state of play on those bills. If you look at the anti-gay bill as well, it also imposes a charge on the consolidated fund because it imposes a prison sentence, custodial sentence on persons who engage in LGBTQ. If you look at the bill that was passed, you can go to jail for 5 years if you engage in LGBTQ activities, and you can go to jail for 3 years in LGBTQ activity itself. So 5 years for pushing and 3 years for engaging in those activities by itself. So that clearly imposes a charge on the consolidated fund. However, there's a catch. The Constitution explains that when it comes to the matters to do with imposing a charge on the consolidated fund, that decision, I should say, has to be done by the Speaker of Parliament. So the wording of the Constitution is that a private bill cannot be introduced in Parliament if, in the opinion of the person presiding, that is the Speaker of Parliament, that bill imposes a charge on the consolidated fund. It must be emphasized that at the start of this bill, the Speaker of Parliament exercises discretion to say that that bill does not impose a charge on the consolidated fund. So here, my own.
Yeah, you're on. Go on.
Yeah. So the president, in his opinion, said that those bills did not impose a charge on the consolidated fund, and so it was shepherded through Parliament. But that was the same thing that was done on the 3 private members' bill that was sponsored by Susu, and the president refused to sign them. The sponsors of the bill, Sam George and co, have an urgent appeal to the president that he must do right by his oath of office and sign those bills into law, and that they expect that the president will do so immediately. If you look at Article 106 of the 1992 Constitution, it clearly says that the president has 7 days when this bill lands on his desk, and we expect that this will take like a week so that Parliament can be able to cross all the T's and dot the I's and send the bill to the president. Once the bill reaches the president, he has a week to sign it. If he doesn't sign it into law within 7 days, he has 14 days to write to the Speaker of Parliament and to Parliament, I should say, explaining why he has not signed that into law. And if he does not do that, the Parliament of Ghana has a right to use 2/3 majority to actually veto the president. So Parliament, if the president refuses to assent this bill into law, If they get 2/3 of the House, they will be able to veto the president, and the president will now be mandated, required, shall then sign the bill into law. So the ball is now in the court of the president. As soon as it lands on his desk, the clock will start ticking. He would have 7 days and then 14 days. If he refuses to sign them, he has to be back in Parliament with an explanation, and then Parliament can then decide the next course of action. If you look at the mood of the House, this bill passed unanimously. In fact, when the majority leader, Alexander Afenyo-Markin, moved certain amendments, those amendments were defeated, and even some members of the majority, the MPP side, voted against the amendments that was proposed by their leader. Then he was at the time the deputy majority leader. So if anything about the mood of the House is to be gauged, it will mean that Parliament will be able to easily get 2/3 majority and then get this through. But Human Rights Watch, the US government, this morning, all of them speaking and saying that this bill is not bad, it's not good, and that they expect that the president should not sign it.
Right, let me come to Robert now. We know that domestically we've received some reactions from rights groups and even human rights activists on what this bill means to the future of individuals who fall in the category of the LGBTQ plus community. How do you respond to this, or what's your reaction to this bill that have been passed by Parliament so far?
Thank you, and good morning to your viewers. First of all, just to warn you, you've already committed me to have been holding out us because you called me Roberta. And this is some of the things that can happen. Now, I see that you are smiling. I suspect that you are holding out us, lesbian. Are you a lesbian?
I see what you're doing. Yeah.
You see, you are wearing a ring on your, as far as I know, wearing a ring on your little finger, no, on your other finger, makes people seem to know that you were a lesbian. So you are holding out us. So we are going to arrest you. This is what this law is doing.
Could you explain further? Because I know there are 4 provisions of this law. The one that caters for the act itself, if you're doing it publicly, it criminalizes it. And then the promotion of it, and then the funding of activities related to it, and then a law that actually protects those in that category, because if you participate in extrajudicial treatment, that is, if you're meting out punishments to people you suspect to be anti-LGBTQ plus community members, the law will deal with you. So exactly what are you saying that this law is speaking to the security of the people in this community?
It's preposterous, it's unnecessary. It's something that is going to cause unnecessary mayhem and confusion amongst everybody. And remember, and you always talk about the LGBT community, this bill, if assented by the president, commits all of us, because I just want to read a little bit of it to you. And it doesn't specifically say LGBT people in this section where I'm going to read. So it says, a person who commits an offense under this paragraph says, and then also says, for the purpose of this section, sexual intercourse occurs when a person penetrates the anus or mouth of another person with the penis of that person or other device, or by use of any object or device penetrates or stimulates. So I'm just giving you an example, first of all, to clarify the point that this is not just for LGBT people. Let's get it is not going, it's something that is going to be going to cause a lot of confusion, because, for instance, like you said, a group that is promoting, what is promoting? Is it when I say LGBT people are human beings that is promoting? Is it by me meeting with a group of people to talk about how we are so good at what we do and we don't hate LGBT people that is called promoting? This law is unnecessary. That is all that I'm saying. That most importantly, and I'm sure many people have argued the legal part of it about how it's unconstitutional because, like you mentioned, telling people they can't meet because of who they are or what they believe is against their constitutional rights. You know, already the Constitution says that people have freedom of thought, freedom of conscience, people have the freedom of belief. People have the right to assemble. People have the right to come together and join groups according to what they believe. And now you are bringing this law just to prove how do LGBT people commit a crime by being who they are.
Let me take you. Let me take you back a bit before we continue from where you are, because you're talking about promotion. We know that these people, individuals, LGBTQ plus members, have been existing among us for centuries, right? Until it got to the point where, Professor Day was just speaking to Benjamin, and he said the same thing. Until these members or these community members started openly promoting, recruiting, and trying to orient young people into their community. We've heard of stories from the USA across the world where young people are taking hormone blockers to become transgender and all that. And that's because of what the material they're exposed to, right? So if LGBTQ plus community members were carrying on with their activities, whether they are aligned left, right, sexually, without making it a public issue, do you think we would arrive here where the country, majority of the population, is saying that we need to protect our young ones, for which reason this law or this bill has been passed?
First of all, where did you get that information that you've just given me?
Which of the...
Fact. The information that there are recruitments, because, as a journalist...
We've seen, from my own observation, we've seen even in Nigeria, talk of Bobrisky and the rest who want to act like women. And young people are seeing this.
Observation as a person to pass a law and not by research and facts and evidence.
So you're saying that
people are recruiting? Who is recruiting for what? Have you seen a list of people listed down and people are going, do you want to be gay? Yes, no, then I tick and I recruit you. Or people are recruiting, or people are standing somewhere to say, okay, I want to change you into and make you into, so these people need to be criminalized. You see, when we are making such statements, especially as journalists, I think it's important that we hold clearly the facts of the matter. If you had told me, per research, 70% of LGBT people are standing outside recruiting, 50% of people are doing this, 70%, then I would accept what you're saying. Then we can argue with facts and figures.
Right.
Then we can say this bill is based on a clear evidence. The only fact I have, and I would use here, is, have you checked the domestic violence and victim support unit statistics on abuse of young people? And have you seen the number of people who are abused by heterosexuals as against homosexuals? Have you seen those statistics? That is what you should be checking and using as a fact, because that is an government institution churning out figures that clearly shows that more young people are abused by heterosexuals as against homosexuals. So I think that it's important that before we have these conversations, people do their research. People are sure that what they are saying is not
right. Rob, let me come in here. I just chanced on this article to back my claim. So in 2020, the Pan-African International Lesbian, Gay, Bisexual, Trans and Intersex Association announced a scheduled conference which was to be held in Ghana between July 27th and July 31st. The conference was the 5th edition of the organization's annual regional conference and was set to be the first of its kind to have been hosted in the country. You and I know the intended purpose of a conference like that, for this group to meet.
Yeah.
The question I asked you earlier was if LGBTQ plus community members carried on with their lives without making it a public issue, then we would not get to the point where Parliament or parliamentarians and individuals find the need to protect the masses. Because you and I, again, know that when we are talking about proper or Ghanaian social rights or sexual rights, this LGBTQ plus practice is alien to us. How do you respond to that?
First of all, if Catholics are having a conference, Catholic bishops are having a conference, are they recruiting Catholic bishops? If Muslims are having a conference, are they recruiting Muslims? And even Christians are having a conference. If women, feminists, are having a conference, are they recruiting feminists? Just answer me that question. And for example, what is Parliament protecting? Because the thing is, we say somebody's protecting, somebody's guarding, somebody's ensuring something doesn't happen. What are we protecting? Because you said protecting children. I've just told you that per statistics, if you look at the domestic, if you do your homework and check on the Domestic Violence Act now, like as you've been given about Pan-African International Lesbian Gay Association, and give me those statistics and tell me how many pedophiles on that list are homosexuals. You see, what we want to do as a country is to pass laws, and we have all the institutions in place that are backed by research. You see, people do not use their whims and caprice to do things because of their religion, their culture. But remember, Ghana is not a religious country, as we say, because we are a secular state. We are a state that has various groups of religions, various groups of people who are free by the Constitution to have their own belief. So if our Constitution says I can have my belief and I don't have to be a Christian, I don't have to be a Muslim, I don't have to be a traditionalist, and I can't be arrested for that, why is it that in my belief that I don't believe in any of these things, we do not downgrade or see LGBT people as a problem? But our Constitution has to, because I do not believe it, but because a certain group of people believe it, then it should be.
We'll come back. I want us to talk about the international reactions we are receiving from the UN and all. But again, I want to read another part of this article to you. It says the conference aims to, 1, engage on common regional strategies to achieve change in policies that discriminates people based on their sexual orientation, gender identity, gender expression, and sex characteristics. 2, develop strategies to build the capacity of LGBTI youth across the continent through capacity building workshops. 3, share ideas for effective advocacy on the continent of Africa. 4, receive advocacy training in relation to relevant regional and international bodies, including the UN. Confirm the mandate of the PAI board in taking forward LGBTI rights on the continent. And then finally, confirm the mandate of the PAI board. That's what I read, taking it forward on the continent.
So where is there?
Are you saying that from so you know what? We can play semantics. I see how that. Let's just move on.
No, you see, it's not a matter of semantics. You know, it's a matter of what is written. And as we measure and talk about it, you are also reading meaning into what you're seeing. And I'm giving you the clear indication to say, you need to show me where in there is written that whatever is there is recruiting.
So I can
by recruiting.
Right. Robert, we can do this is taking a bit of time. And if
the semantics, we will play it, but at the end of the day, it's about you seeing what is written and that is written, and being clear about the fact that there is nothing written or nothing said about recruitment.
How about promotion?
Where is the promotion? Promotion of what?
If LGBTQ plus community members are coming to Ghana to host a conference, the young people who may be innocent, oblivious to what even this means, LGBTQ plus means, and then they get exposed to the activities of these community members. After that exposure, are you telling me that you cannot classify that as promotion, because that young person then understands that there's something called gay, lesbian, which although is foreign to him or her, can start reading more, watching more videos, leaning towards that direction? Is that not promotion?
I mean, I'm just trying to figure out where you're going with this conversation around young people.
Right. But let's move on to the international reactions we are receiving so far. Kweku Asante, if you're still on the line, I'll come back to you, Robert. But if Kweku is on the line, Kweku is not with us. So back to you, Robert. We know that the UN is urging Ghana not to pass this bill because it infringes on the human rights of individuals. We also had opinions from various people who say that it would hinder the progress of certain activities, anti-HIV activities in terms of donor funding and the rest. Where do you stand on this issue in terms of international reaction to,
On the same line, I mean, as an international human rights advocate, of course, that is what we've been saying over the past 3 years since this bill conversation started, around the fact that we are not even talking about LGBT people alone as a group or as an identity or as a sexuality, but talking about the erosion of human rights protection because a group of people do not believe in the identity or the existence of a group of people. It's just like talking about the Nazism time where some group of people were identified as different and therefore they need to be treated different and be burned and be all of that. Or saying that women do not belong to boardrooms because of who they are. You are eroding human rights protection of these people. Already, there are programs in Ghana that are ongoing to protect all sorts of groups of people, including men who have sex with men, under this government. So, since the running of this program, how has harm been caused by these programs that are already ongoing? And you have already said that there are LGBT people have always existed. And you have to just, as a scientist and researcher, I would say what research has been done in Ghana to show that there is increased damage caused by the LGBT community. And that is why the international community is outraged by how Ghana is eroding its human rights profile. Because we always know that Ghana has been a beacon of human rights protection on the continent.
I like that you said that, because again, the law makes the bill, not the law yet, makes provision for the protection of these people. Because the fourth provision is giving up from between 6 months to 3 years jail term for anyone who practices or engages in extrajudicial activities or treatment for LGBTQ plus community members. So it's not completely insensitive towards their rights and how, the reception of this law in the country. So it's not, you cannot say that once we pass this bill into law, then we are being entirely unfair or insensitive towards the community members. Can you say that?
If you say, let me slap you and give you a bottle of water, how does that sound to you? It's telling the person you do not exist. You cannot hold out us. You do not exist.
I think it's saying that you can exist, but don't make your business public business.
But listen, that is not what the law is saying. The first section says, hold out us. That is questioning the person's identity, and that is existence. Like saying, you can't be a woman. It's just that. So if it says that you can't be a woman, it says, oh, you can't be a woman, but if you're a woman, I will, if somebody questions you for acting as a woman, I will punish you. I'll punish the person for it. That is what it says. Is that protection of human rights? No, is that protection of human rights to you?
Well, that's how you've asked a question. Those who have answers will answer you. I'm sure Ghanaian our viewers are following and they'll answer in the comment section. But that's all the time that we have for this particular conversation this morning. Robert Akoto Amoafo, thank you for joining us. He's a human rights activist, and it was great chatting with you on the show. But that's not the end of it. We are going to host a young man passionate about issues of the youth and seeking to be a member of parliament for K2 North on the ticket of the opposition National Democratic Congress. Eric Edemagbana is my next guest on the AM show. I'll be right back.